everybody. We're going to get started with our zoning board meeting here tonight. We don't have our secretary here tonight, so it's really going to be very important that when you come up with the applications, that you speak as much as you can into our microphone to make our recording nice and clear for reference as we go forward. And I'll remind you as you come up, so you don't have to worry about remembering. Well, hey, Danny, why don't you just hold on and wait till I go on the base? Okay? Our first order of business is going to be our decisions from last month. The first one is the Landmark Mill LLC, 185 Mill Road. That was for the sign. The board has a decision on that to grant that variance, so I'm going to make a motion that we accept that decision as written.
I'll second.
Second by Jim. All in favor? Okay, so that one goes. The next one is the Beechwood, West Hampton Beach LLC at 17 Happy Lane. Again, we have a decision to approve that variance request. So I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept that decision as written. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye. 5-0.
5-0.
Say it out loud for Megan's benefit.
Mhm. Gotcha, Tony. And Daniel Mink, 81 Dune Road. Jim, you had that one. The board has a decision on that one to approve that variance, so I'll make a motion that we go ahead and accept that decision as written. Second by John, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's a 5-0 decision on that also. Can you turn out for a second? Oh, yeah. Okay. So our first holdover, number 4 on our agenda for the Quantum Beach Club. My understanding is that that's still with planning and not quite ready to come back to us yet.
We are secret with planning, so they'll probably gonna be planning a couple meetings. It has been scheduled for public hearing next Thursday, if anyone's interested in that. It's here Thursday at 5 PM.
Thursday with the planning board? Okay, Brad, thank you. Everybody hear that? The Quantum Beach Club going to have a hearing next Thursday with the planning board, if anyone has an interest in that. So I'll make a motion, we go ahead and hold that over for all purposes to our next meeting.
Second.
Second by Dan, all in favor?
Aye.
All good. Cindy Scully, 21 Bay Road, we got a request once again to hold that over, so. One more time, we're holding over 21 Bay.
Second.
Second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're good. All right, we're into our new applications now. Number 6 on our agenda, Casey and Megan Shenley, 86 Harbor Road. Applicant seeks variances for 19710C for proposed building area lot coverage of 37.5% where maximum permitted is 20%. And from 19710C3 for proposed building parking area of 43.2% where the maximum permitted is 40. From 19710D for proposed rear setback of 20.5 feet, where the minimum required is 25 feet, and from 19734A5, proposed habitable floor area of 34% of the lot area, when the maximum permit is 20%, and from 19735C for proposed deck setback of 19.25, where the minimum required is 20 feet.
Good evening. For the applicant, Joe Zoom, 223 Old Beach. As the chairman indicated, we're here tonight seeking some variances to allow the reconstruction of a home on 86 Harbor Road, which, as we know, is located in the R5 zoning district. We have a lot size of about 7,800 square feet, which is a little bit larger than the required. The current property is certainly improved with a single-story building and associated decks. As was read in the notice, there's a number of variances that are being sought, 5 in total. The first one is, the habitable floor area, which we're proposing 34%. The existing is a little over 20% at the minute. The, building lot area coverage, we're, looking for 37% up against the required 20, but I would like the board to note that, the current coverage under that category is 36.7, so the increase from what's existing is relatively small. The third area is the building with the parking area. 40 is allowed. We're proposing 43.2. We're actually at 47.6, so we're retreating a little bit for that one as well. There's a rear yard setback of 1.5 feet as opposed to the required 20, but again, right now we're at 20.3 feet, so that's essentially equivalent. And then there's a deck setback variance that we're looking for at 19.25 feet, and against the 20 as requirement, but also for the board to note
Take
that
this house
the
down,
current
right?
deck is at 17.2 feet, so we are retreating from the order a little bit with the proposed deck. I'm sure that the topic of great interest is the habitable space issue, so I won't save that for last, but just to quickly go through the other four variances. The first one, the building area lot coverage, that's mostly driven by the proposed deck. The house itself that we're proposing only covers 18.6% of the,
I'm gonna ask it right away. Can they do anything with that deck?
well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
You know, let me get through the whole thing, and then we'll talk about, there is some flexibility, so we'll.
Okay.
We'll definitely talk about that. So as indicated, the house itself is at 18.6%, so there's a deck, and if the deck could be built as grade, because the house needs to be elevated, the deck wouldn't count. The third variance has to do with building and parking coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're showing a reduction in that, although we're not quite getting to the code requirement. And in addition, that's really driven by the deck, not really the house that we're proposing. The fourth variance had to do with the setback for the house of 20.5. We're currently at 20.3. It's supposed to be 25. But it's only for a short distance of the rear of the house, and it's not really internal space in the house. It's a second-story deck, which is covering a portion of the first floor deck. So it doesn't really increase the capacity of the house itself. So getting to the habitable space itself, you know, as I well know, we're in the R5. There's a whole preamble to the R5 section in the code that describes, at least at the time that code section was adopted, what the world looked like. I mean, I'm sure that you would agree if you went down there now, it doesn't look like that at all. Not a whole bunch of single-story cottages. It's a multitude of things. There are some small, there are some large, and so the conditions that existed there, I don't believe are the conditions now. And the conditions that we need to compare the relief that we're looking to has to do with the community as it exists now, not the community as it existed and was described in the preamble to that section of the code. And again, you know, there's always the issue of substantiality and how substantial the variance that's being sought is. And again, I would suggest that substantiality is measured not by percentages of difference, it's measured by the community itself. So one of the, in that regard, one of the things that I had submitted with the original package was a whole bunch of data, it's all to sleep. But the point being that there, of the 9 houses that I looked at in the direct vicinity of this house, 6 of them exceed the 20% requirement, some of them by quite a bit. The house directly next door to us is at 80 Harbor Road, has a habitable space of 40%, 40.2%, my calculation. It does range from 17 uh, up to 40 out of a couple of houses that are not in the direct vicinity but are in the neighborhood that are as high as 42%. So the 34% that we are seeking is really not character with the neighborhood um, that we're in the neighborhood that this property resides. As I said, the house itself meets all but one of the setbacks, for the side yard, rear yard, front yard setbacks. Um, and we have retreated from the water a bit with this project. The house has gotten a little bit smaller. We have gotten no closer to our neighbor on the east. We've gotten further away by almost 5 feet from the neighbor to the west by this proposal. Um, And so, I think balancing the interests of the parties here, the project, while it meets my client's needs for additional space, and is not out of context with the additional space that others have in this area, but it also reduces the number of impacts that already exist. The subject. Just if you want to have an idea of context. The subject house is in the middle, as indicated that the house to the right, which is a relatively new house. It has a habitable space of almost 40%, I believe. There's no evidence, at least I couldn't find any evidence in the file that that house received a variance to get to that size. And in fact, in looking at all of the properties and reviewing the village file for there wasn't really any variance that we're expecting by any of the lot size that they are. But as it may, those are the numbers, and that's the community. It's encouraging the board to compare us to.
Yeah, sure. One of my questions is, you said, I have this right, that the square footage of the lot is 7,600 square feet
Yes.
and 6,000 is what's required there. So you've got a lot size that's 26% larger than what's allowed. Why can't, if you're gonna take this house down and build a new house, why can't we just make it conform? I mean, you're asking us to,
Probably make it conform, with regards to the setbacks.
Mhm.
But the habitable space that we're proposing here, it's really not a big house for a family to live in. And this just makes the house more livable, for my client and his family.
What's the number of the habitable space? What's the square footage of?
Is, 2,600. 2643.
26. And what's the allowable space? What's the allowable in Pond Point?
20%.
1,800.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But it's 1,800 is what's allowed and you're going to 26, another big, excuse me, another big increase with Pond Point.
Right.
So
But I think it's but I think that ship has sailed to a certain extent. Like that's the purpose of all the information that I provided you is that
Understood.
there's lots of homes down there that are.
Why did they get so big? Did they come before this board and get
I don't
variances?
find any evidence that that was the
Exactly.
case.
So it's just, when I look at something like this and see that you're taking the house down, want to build this bigger house, you need a lot of relief on a lot that's oversized for Ponds Point. I question whether you're before the correct board, Jim, to be honest with you. Because you pointed out in your letter that it was, a group of houses that was single story, small little community, but that's not the
Okay,
case now. So, maybe, rather than be here before the zoning board and ask for quite a bit of relief, it might be something to think about going to the trustees and seeing if that zoning is outdated. Because I question, for us to give this kind of relief, it's almost rewriting the code. And we've been through this with, not with you, but we've been through this with a couple other applications with things. And it's just such big relief that's requested and asked for. It's almost like we're rewriting the code.
But I
And I
don't
don't
think the
think that's-
preamble to the code, that code section is not the regulation. That's, it's
Oh, I understand.
precatory language, or it's, I forget we used to chart out the cases, what it was, but the actual code is the actual code.
Right.
And you guys are charged with the ability to analyze and variance from what the code says in the context of the balancing test.
Sure.
And what I'm urging you to consider is that however the houses got to be where they are there. They form the basis of the community. And the basis of the community and the direct community of the town is significantly larger than the 20% that's permitted. So I think it's well within your realm of possibilities to rule on whether a variance is appropriate. Our argument obviously is that the nature of this community is that this is not out of scale. What's permitted in this area. Setting aside what the preamble to R5 says. So, but as to Mr. Witcham's question, there are clearly some areas that we can work towards.
Well, there's some other areas too. I mean, you're
Go ahead, sorry.
you're looking at 4 bedrooms plus a study. Right?
Right.
That's a lot.
Is that ordinary for homes anywhere in this village?
Well, normally in that area where we've been trying to keep people to 3 bedrooms,
Mhm.
no study.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are with 4 bedrooms plus a study. So I think there's room for, I think you should take this back to your client and see what you can do to adjust.
Here are these listenings. But we will have a discussion. My comment about flexibility was in the sense that, the deck is at 19.5 feet. It needs to be 20 feet. So I'm sure we could figure out a way to get that.
I'm sure you could, but when I looked at the whole picture here,
Mhm.
there's a lot I think you need to adjust. Or at least talk to your clients about.
Right. I can't say that we would come back with anything different, but.
I know.
As you know, I'm always happy to take another look.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Jim, a couple comments. Just to clarify, what's allowed, what you're seeking is 2,643 square feet for floor area. What's
Yes.
allowed is 1,576 square feet.
I'm going with her, 1,800 is my.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would. I have to argue with your bouncing back and forth to community.
Mhm.
And then matching this up to houses nearby. Now, the community is Pond Point. It's not a street. It's a community of plus or minus 100 homes. The majority of those homes today are still cottages. They're not, you might not, but I would say they're still cottages. They're not designed like, like this and with, what I feel would maybe overdevelopment of a piece of property. That Pond Point area, and you mentioned the preamble and such, that's really just a sidebar to what Pond Point really is. Now, I happen to agree with the chairman, when he says, perhaps if you feel strongly, and there are a lot of these applications, coming before us for extensive relief, that, maybe the code isn't right for 2025. And you need to, present that, to the trustees and say,
Right.
you know what? just as you said, people want to live, they, it's a different day, they have big families and on and on. And pitch them that argument, it doesn't hold water with us.
Well,
You know, the,
I
fa-
would
the
say
size,
just the opposite.
the size of the family isn't, we're not going to say, Jim, oh, you have, 12 people in your family, not a problem. That's not what we do. We're looking for, if there's something substantial here, okay, and your argument is that substantial should be matched up against the neighbor next door, 2 doors away, or on that same street. I don't agree with that either. I think substantial is substantial. And when you start talking about 60, 70, 80%, increases in floor area and lot coverage, that in anybody's, book is substantial. Well, I'm just putting it out there. So,
So I think that there's two ways to look at substantiality. One of them is certainly the mathematical way. What is the percentage difference? But I would suggest that the other appropriate way to look at substantiality is to look at the neighborhood and see what else is there. And if everybody else in the neighborhood is at 20%, then what we're proposing is certainly substantial, using that analysis. But that's not the case in the vicinity and throughout. I mean, I grant you that there are still a lot of cottages in that area. There are an awful lot of houses that are like the house at 80 Harbor Road, which has a 40%.
there are some. I'll give you that. There are some.
Well,
The oth- Well, it's like I said, Palm Point there are 100 homes. We can't just pick out, 10 or 15 of them and say, okay, this is our neighborhood. The other thing is that by approving something as substantial as this, I feel would be a slap in the face to anybody that developed their property, 7 or 8 thousand square foot, on a 7 or 8 thousand square foot lot. They were able to develop that property, properly. And now another applicant comes in and they're approved, for a 60 or 70, 80%, increase. That's a tough one for the board.
Billy. So I still need to do a little bit more work to convince you otherwise. I think that to send us to the trustees, you have the jurisdiction over the question. If the trustees were interested in changing this, that would be fine too.
I'm not send you there. All I'm saying is this has risen to that level. That's all I'm saying. As a board member to an attorney, you've been before us 1,000 times. You know where we sit. I'll bounce back later again, but that's my, yeah. Okay.
Jim, the current number of bedrooms is 3?
It's four.
It's 4 now?
There is an update, there is a CO.
Most of the applications in this area that I've seen over the last 10 years, there's usually some kind of constraint that the applicant can argue. There might be, corner lot, it might be an extra small lot where they just can't squeeze, a number of bedrooms on it. You've got a large lot, it's not a corner lot, and you're taking the whole thing down. So if the board were to approve this, there's not one application they could ever deny at these numbers ever again. Because you're setting a precedent that,
That ship is,
If-
precedent is already
no,
established.
it's not, because you're not at the low end. You would still be at, even with these numbers, you would still be at the high end of everything else. So all these other houses on your chart even that are in the 20s would say, I get to go to 34. Because you've already set the precedent that without any special circumstances applicable to this property, 34% is now the new number, which is a lot more than the 20% that's set by the code. So how do you make sort of an extraordinary, what makes this unique that would not set a precedent for every single lot to just take it?
The number that we're looking for is no longer unique in Palm Point.
Yeah, but I mean, your own chart, if you take the floor area, you got 13.7, 23.15, 32.14. All those are under what you're proposing. 17.7, 17.8, you're at 20%. Yeah, there's one at 40. But you're setting a new bar that, because there's nothing unique about this, every single one that's under 34% would automatically be entitled to a variance to get to 34%.
Okay.
I think. I mean, because I couldn't, how could you write a decision that says this is different than Jim's application? Because he had no unique features on that property, and yet the board gave them 34%. You have to give it to me too. So
I think
that's rewriting the code, isn't it?
Writing the code, yeah, that's what I said.
Feels that way.
This board has the authority to grant that if the case, proper case.
If there's a practical difficulty or something that would trigger it, but it's like,
I have to look at all 100 houses.
Curious also is how they got there. Were they granted variances and what were the conditions if they were? You don't have any,
I was unable to find a variance application for any of these. And some of these are very new homes, so that relatively new, so that puzzles me a bit. But again, my position is that the community is the community, and doesn't really matter how it got there. It is what it is, and that to measure substantiality, you have to measure yourself relative to what is there.
I understand your argument. I don't agree with it. Okay, and I mean, I go back and I look at the argument we had about the gates on houses. Having to be 20 feet off the road, and we drive around the town and we see gates on Dune Road that are, 6 feet off the road.
Right.
But they were there from a long time ago and they're not new.
But some of these homes are new,
Well,
like the one next door, for example.
That's not true.
well, hold on. You will have a chance to speak. And I also have one other question. You made a remark about your client's need for additional space. Is that you need to elaborate on? He wants a bigger house?
In general, he has a family. They, as people are enjoying more and more of their time out here.
Mm-hmm.
If this is a second, there's a lot more time here.
Okay.
For more of the modern conveniences and
Mhm.
experiences.
Well, we all love it out here, but maybe if they need a bigger house, maybe Pond Point wasn't the spot for them. No, I was. What's that?
It's a beautiful part of the world, so.
We all live here. We all love it. Okay.
So I clearly have some homework to do, which I'm
Mhm.
happy to endeavor to do. Take some public comment and then,
Right.
we'll probably ask you to adjourn this to the next hearing. We'll discuss with the architect and my clients, what, if anything, we need to do.
Okay.
just,
What-
can I just add one other thing too? Because running these numbers through, you can double check my math, but it comes out to 25.2% as the average.
Yeah.
So what you're saying about this being the new character of the community, 34% is not 25.2%.
If you average, if I do load, if I do mean, I come to a different center point. But
You're never gonna come up with 34% as being the prevailing anything. It's not in the, not the mean, it's not the average, so what makes this unique is the question.
I understand what you're saying. Not necessarily agreeing with what you're saying, but I understand the point. We'll address it.
But I would also just keep in mind when you're going back and looking at this, you have an oversized lot that's bigger than required in Pond Point. And yet you're looking for you're looking for a significant amount of variance. And you know what? It can. And you still have room with this to put a bigger house on it. It doesn't need relief. Okay, so we're gonna go back, and
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure you're focusing on that, know that that's where, the focus is here with us too. Okay? My math says it's 26% bigger than than the minimum required, the maximum required. Okay? Thank you, Jim. All righty. Now, folks, we're gonna let anybody that wants to address the board come on up. We're gonna ask you to please keep in mind what we've discussed, so we don't need to rehash over and over again what we've already talked about, but as you come up to the microphone, try and speak into that microphone so we have a clear recording and history of what's happening.
Name and address.
Yeah, we're gonna need your name and address also.
Okay. Barbara King, and my address is 94 Harbor Road. I live right next door to the proposed house.
Okay, Barb, we have a letter from you,
Yes, updated letter that I,
an updated one?
yeah, a different one. Because I wasn't really feeling secure because of the different. I have a copy of what the proposed house and their new storefront. Okay. So I'm really objecting to this variance request for what I buy Casey and Logan Shanley for the property at 86 Harbor Road. While I understand their desire to elevate and expand their business, I am deeply concerned about their proposal significantly violates multiple provisions of the West Hampton Beach Code. I'm a direct neighbor of them. I'm at lot 347, if you look at the lot, and I'm also a lifelong resident of High Point. I've been here for 60 years. My parents bought a house, a little cottage here. My aunt and uncle did. They raised me here. I raised my children here, and now we're raising our children. Grandchildren here. We live in a cottage, 1,270 square feet. At some point, I kept it exactly as it was. And I'm really concerned, I have serious reservations about the negative effects these variances will have on my property, the surrounding neighborhood, and the integrity of our once subdivision. Hot Point is significantly if you put it right there, I only counted maybe 10 houses that have 2 stories, but not even 2 full stories. And the house that he was talking about, that Jim was talking about next door, has been there 22 years, the larger one. So I'm should not be the one on the other side. But, my specific objections to these various requests are the excessive lot coverage, where again we talked about there was 37.5%. It's nearly double the limit. The excessive habitable floor area, again, you're looking at 34% over before. I don't have to repeat it. And they're proposing approximately a 2,700 square foot house. It exceeds the zoning limit by about 1,000 square feet. It creates a visual spatial balance with the existing homes. At that point, this still room for its plain cottages, most of the homes conforming to the regulations. If you take a ride there, you can see that it still is very much cottage community, which is what makes Point so special.
We all live here, so we're very familiar. We're not out of towners, believe me.
Children right here. I know cottages, a lot of cottages. 10 homes, really only one that cottages. So what I don't understand about reading that is your lot coverage right now is 6 square feet, and that doesn't include your deck, the porch, or the driveway. Plan which I saw, the current floor living space would be 1,441 square feet, and the habitable living space with covered deck is an additional 730 square feet, which totals the current floor of 371 square feet. I'm still confused with the habitable, in the size of the deck. That's just the first floor.
Well, the habitable is habitable. Habitable is conditioned space.
Does it meet the coverage?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay, I wasn't sure of that. And then the second floor living space is 281 square feet. And then the second floor balcony, again, I wasn't sure, would add another 559 square feet. So I was just concerned about the square footage, which is like almost 1,000 square feet larger than what is allowed in. We have a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house. They're proposing the 4 bedrooms plus a study and 4.5 baths. Now the deck, the proposed rear yard setback. Now they propose to maintain the deck that was expanded without permits from the previous owner, which was done, and they had asked us about that, and we said, but if they knock down the house and demolish the house because that's what they're doing, then the deck, which is much larger than it used to be, I would say that and that's confused me.
That's all gonna be
They were
addressed as we go forward.
Because they were talking about it's definitely gone, and I think once it's gone, I remember when we redid our house, we got a little landing in the front, and our builder, I don't know if it's Fred Martin, who's been around a long time, told us, make sure you want to get this little landing, if you want to garden, if it's garden, you can't put it back. So I'm confused about the deck that they want to put. That's
Sure.
what confuses me. And also the proposed structure is significantly closer to my property than the current one. The setback regulations exist to ensure adequate space between the homes, preserving privacy and natural light. And additionally, the proposed storage sheds I see on the plan, outdoor side stairs, decks, the mechanical platforms, all would encroach unreasonably close to my property line. Their HVAC system, I think it looks from their plans, although it's hard to tell, it looks like it's maybe right inside my house. I'm concerned about that creating a persistent source of.
Addressed also, I mean,
Okay.
you could rest,
And the precedent of allowing such a large home.
heard the board, you've heard us, right?
So I don't
So-
know what you're saying, but I
Sure.
feel that the zoning code is aesthetic intent of this platform, which is such a special community, and especially for me.
It is a special community. It's an R5 community. It's a separate one on Dune Road. It's a separate community off of Dune Road. It's an R5, it's special zoning area.
Everything you're saying is really breaking down.
Read it.
Significantly taking this would weaken the zoning enforcement, making it difficult to uphold community standards for this and future proposals, everything you just said. Then, they spoke about self-created difficulty. The difficulty of their proposal is self-created. It's certainly their right to build a beautiful, raised, two-story home, but there's no justification for the requested variances for just wanting a larger home.
Well,
No hardship should be created by the denial of these variances, and granting these significant variances would be the exception, not the norm. And I urge the board to consider the long-term consequences of approving these variances. They would not only have a direct and substantial impact on my property, but also the surrounding homes and the overall character of our neighborhood. Again, as a lifelong resident of Point, I strongly believe that maintaining the existing zoning restrictions is essential to preserving our community's integrity, aesthetics, and environmental. I appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dwight Harris. I got a little confused when I received this because I own a house there. And I realized I got addressed because I'm trustee for a very good friend of mine who lives at 89 Point Road, Humphrey. The one confusing thing is when you send out these notices, they tend to go to the taxpayers first.
Could you give me your name again? sir?
Dwight Harris.
Harris, thank you, Mr. Harris.
It takes to go to the taxpayer's address, not the owner. So I'm afraid some owners may miss out. Of course, if there's a mortgage, very often tax bills go to the mortgage people, not the mortgage owner. Okay, so I just would like to help establish some facts. I think we all know where you're headed. I did want to ask you, there was an exhibit submitted. Could I just see that picture so I could comment on it? The house next to the subject property?
Joe, do you have that?
This one?
Huh?
There's an extra here.
This house right here?
Okay,
Yeah, okay. I think
so we're talking about the large house.
I did quite a bit of research on Pond Point, and I have to say, I also found there are very few variances of record.
Mhm.
My family's been on Pond Point for 6 generations, pre-1938, okay?
Mhm.
Live year round here, et cetera, et cetera. So I think since there's very little recorded history, which I spoke to the building inspector, it's important to maybe focus on oral history a little bit. I remember when that house was built, and I believe absolutely it was built before 1983 when the special district was formed. Very often, these houses that don't have variances were built prior to that special district. Those houses existed then, so with all due respect, that neighborhood hasn't changed. A lot of those larger houses existed. And I think the trustees, in their wisdom, decided this is getting too big. We have to save the quaintness of the neighborhood, plus safety. The roads are only 14 feet wide. So they're very concerned about traffic, they're concerned about open space, et cetera, et cetera. So, and they also stated in their preamble about why they created the district. They also stated that there are approximately 33% of the houses exceeding 20%. But they still, taking that into consideration, decided to put a limit on it of 20%. So I believe that the neighborhood hasn't changed so much. They recognized that at the time. Jim did this a breakdown, which I think he submitted to you, and I'd like to comment on that because I did do quite a bit of time researching this. He included 3 houses outside the 200-foot limit. Now, I think our District 5 covers all of Pond Point. We all agree on that. It's a special district. You're only required, or the applicant's only required to serve notices within 200 feet. So Jim decided, which is fine, to go to the 200-foot area and describe that neighborhood, which I think you really should focus on all of Pond Point. He had 3 houses outside the 200-foot area. He eliminated, and I'll read the addresses, he eliminated 57 Point Road, 55 Harbor Road, 65 Point Road, 52 Point Road, 89 Point Road, and 68 Point Road. Those are in the 200-foot area. Those, quite honestly, don't help his argument. I can give you a breakdown of all the houses, if you'd like, in the 200-foot area by virtue of coverage and
I don't
also
think
as far as
that's-
habitable area.
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, well,
We all,
I did the work. I'm always, listen, I've been a developer builder for 50 years, and I'm always concerned if something goes through appeal that all the evidence is submitted, but I think I know where they're
you
going.
know, folks, it's important to remember that an applicant has the right to ask for anything they want. Okay?
But I
So
believe in
just
your
be-
wisdom that I'm hearing tonight, so I feel better.
But just because they ask for it doesn't mean it's a given that they're going to get that relief. Okay? If,
So,
you know, if Mr. Hume's client wanted to have a heliport on their front lawn, he could ask for it. It might be an absurd request, but he could ask for it. So let's not get too worked up about
no,
what's been
okay, but
requested.
just factually, what I
Mhm.
discovered is if you take those 17 houses
Uh-huh.
and you take the average habitable area, which I'm a little confused because I don't see that anywhere in definitions. I know we're all talking about conditioned space, but
Mhm.
typically there's a definition that says what is habitable. So I'm hearing from this board that it's conditioned space. The average HFA is 22.8%. And if you're not interested, I have that documented for everybody, including all the accessory parts. I don't think you need it. But so what I'm saying is the neighborhood hasn't changed very much. And the other thing, as far as the neighborhood, this is a one-way road in, a one-way road out.
Mhm.
So many people have to pass so many houses on their way in just to get to their house.
Mhm.
That impacts a lot more people than just the close neighbors, has a tremendous impact. The smaller houses are also generally on the inside. You build these large houses, this is what I'm concerned about. I'm on the water. Whatever goes on around me, I get to look at the water, I get to look at the sunset. When I was a kid, nobody would build on the inside. Now you have houses on the inside. They have a possibility now with everybody raising in 2 stories and concrete walls for cesspools. You have a possibility that you're really going to be screened from natural environment on the inside. I feel bad for that, and I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's what we want. It has turned into a neighborhood. They were concerned about an excessive amount of population with all the group rentals. That's been toned down a lot. It is a very family area again, like it was when I was a kid. A lot of kids on bicycles, et cetera, et cetera. The larger the houses, the more traffic you get. The size of the parking lots, I don't know how you get on parking for 4 or 5 bedrooms. But I have a lot more evidence that stats that,
Anything that you think you might want to submit, I would just go ahead and either drop it off at the village office or
I'll
email
leave it
it.
here with Brad before I leave, leave it on the desk, that's fine.
And it could be just submitted and become part of the file, absolutely.
I think it's gonna make also feel a lot more comfortable.
Well,
about
you're
it.
a better man than I am then. Okay, but
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this application?
Good evening, my name is Heather Snyder. I am the property owner at 57 Harbor Road. I have resided at that property seasonally for the past 22 years. I do not want to be redundant. A lot of my points, I have submitted a letter, but since I drove all the way out here and took the time, I still want to stand up and formally give you my opposition to the variances requested by the Shannon family.
Excuse me, Heather,
Yeah.
where exactly? You said 67?
57.
57, okay.
Family property to my left. I'm one of the inside houses,
Okay,
a cottage. And so that is from, everyone has addressed the codes and all of that. So I think maybe an area that has not been talked about, at least very much, is that our neighborhood, we have discussed it, is a tidal floodplain, a E7 flood zone. The flooding in our neighborhood has increased both in frequency and in intensity in recent years. The area's geography prevents effective drainage systems as the shallow water table and permeable soil conditions limit traditional solutions. In the more than 20 years that I have been a resident of this land has been found. What worries me is that with excessive flooding, we have overwhelmed septic systems. We have sewage water when it floods flowing down the street. Standing water and sewage is an ever increasing problem on point. It's a health hazard. And my concern is that allowing further overdevelopment will only worsen an already unresolved and ongoing problem. My house in particular, one of the first built on Pond Point, sits on one of the lowest elevations in the neighborhood and will be directly impacted by overbuilding. The neighborhood character. We all know that the zoning code was established to maintain the balance and aesthetic integrity of Pond Point, a small, almost exclusively seasonal beach community. Most of the homes do remain seasonal, as flooding makes it challenging to protect plumbing systems during the colder months, and our roads are often impassable. Allowing such an excessive variance would dramatically alter the character of our neighborhood and diminish the quality of life for surrounding residents. Approving such an extreme deviation from the codes would weaken the enforcement of zoning laws, potentially encouraging future non-compliant developments and making it more difficult to preserve community standards. It is for these reasons that I strongly urge the Department of Building and Zoning to deny this variance request in order to uphold the integrity of our zoning regulations and to protect the safety, health, and well-being of our neighborhood. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me your time, and I just finally want to say that I feel like this home proposal is in the wrong place and is outrageous and would really be just an unbelievable outlier in the community.
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else on this application? Well, we still have it. It's not going to be closed tonight, obviously. Jim, is there anything else you want to add? Or we're going to be holding it over?
Says as to the whole flooding issue, we either would create or resolve that with this project. The house would be FEMA compliant. I would have a new septic system, which would begin to minimize the impact of
Correct.
sewage on the property, so these are all actually benefits to the project as opposed
Mhm.
to the deficits. And as to the neighbor to the east, as I indicated, the house is not getting any closer than it is now.
Mhm.
And there is a staircase and part of the deck on that side, but there's no relief necessary to have established those, so that they're no closer than what the setback is on those sides. So those impacts the code imposes on the neighbor, not my client's project. But other than that, I would ask it be adjourned for all purposes to the March meeting.
I'm March already. All right, if there's nothing else on this application, I'm gonna make a motion. We go ahead and hold this over for all purposes at our March meeting.
Second.
Second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
All in, okay. Okay. What do we have here?
That's the breakdown. How the area governs, the others, like, sure.
I've done some research around here.
I care about it.
Is that going into the record?
Yes.
Thank you.
This one.
Did you get this photograph also?
Yes.
Go with that. Number 7, Keto Family Limited Partnership, 88 Point Road, applicant seek a variance for proposed biddable floor area of 32% of the lot area where the maximum permission, excuse me, is 20%.
For the applicant, James Inhill, 323. With me tonight is the owner of the property in the back there. She's Busy and also the architect.
How we know him?
If you have any architectural questions, yeah, ask him.
Okay.
Oh, but, very simply put, we're just looking for, 69 square feet of increase in habitable space. And it's being located under an existing, beneath the overhang. The applicant has had the difficulty with the roof under that overhang.
It's to correct a problem, correct?
Well, in the first instance, it's to take advantage of correcting a problem.
Yeah.
The footprint is getting no bigger, the house is not getting any closer to anything. And as I indicated, it's a small increase in the existing habitable space. At the project, and I think it is calculated as 1.15% over the existing.
Which is already 10% over what's allowed.
That is true. In all intents and purposes from the outside, it doesn't have any impact. It's going to be a bathroom, so it doesn't create an additional bedroom, it doesn't create additional space other than it just makes it a little more convenient for the occupant. Bedroom number 1.
Why don't we just fix the leaky roof?
Oh, we could, but then
Thumbs up.
the leaking problem.
This is going on since, what did you say, 2002?
I believe so.
Not the room.
Huh?
Please.
You
It's
you have
not,
to come up.
it's not the roof.
Well, hold on now. We need you to tell us who you are.
All right, my name is Janice Keto, this is for 88 Point Road.
Mhm.
This is not to, the roof is fine. We have had, this is an overhang with a patio. Ever since this house was built, the architect at the time built the doors, even with the patio, The patio, we had leaks that go from the second story into the first story every single year since we built the house. I've tried redoing the patio. I've done whatever we can over the years. I've brought people in, it doesn't work. So the thought, and people who finally bought in, they said, if you enclose it, you'll stop the leaking from coming in. And at the same time, I thought, well, if I'm going to, close it in, make it useful, put a bathroom. And I can show you since last year to this year, I can show you pictures. The leak has gotten larger and larger, and every year it's larger and larger. To fix it, trying to figure out what it's going to be. And that seems to be the issue. It's just, it'll be safer to just enclose it. And I asked them, grant this for us.
Dennis, maybe you can ask the architect to describe exactly how that's done. To help us out a little bit.
Good evening. William Hine, the architect for the project, 492 Montauk Highway in Eastport. So what is your question?
How do you make that happen? What are the mechanics of
William, give us the best you can with the microphone too, okay, for our recording purposes?
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to sing, but just give us updates. Thank you.
Now, how are you going to make that happen? You're enclosing that deck area, right?
Right. Currently, the house has I'll call it a carved-in roof deck. The roof of the house comes over it. There's a column in the corner. The flooring in that area is all level with the house. So every time it rains, that area is tiled. The wind will blow this water back up against the house. And because there was no way to flash this up into the walls, it leaks every time it rains. So the idea is to basically fill in the two walls, basically enclose it to the porch, and thereby developing that as interior space as opposed to the exterior space, eliminating any sort of a leaking problem. And the benefit of the owner is that he gets another bathroom.
Thank you.
Now, the leak is not from the roof. The leak is from the.
From the floor of that porch.
Okay.
So
So it's like a bad design from the get-go.
was. Yeah. And unfortunately, because of the flooring in there,
Okay, right. No pitch here. Yeah. Okay.
Gotta change in height in there that would eliminate the leak.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
That was, I think that
Okay.
would have collapsed years ago, just the rain was getting worse.
Sure.
So the fact that it had to be moved, was only the winter that in. If it comes in, that's when you're outdoor, the wind is always blowing it in.
So you get something from the west, you have a problem. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so just having heard the previous application, I just want to make it clear that as far as building coverage is concerned, we're at 17.09% when 20 is the max, so we're under on that. And so on the total lot coverage, we're at 38.83% when 40% is the max. So basically, the house is meeting the setback under on footprint. It's just filling in this corner, as Jim said, 69 square feet. It's
It's a big bathroom, isn't it?
No.
69 square feet, pretty big bathroom.
It's 5x12.
Yeah.
5 feet.
what we want to do is eliminate the 69 square feet of roof deck. So it just becomes the bathroom. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's basically it, as you can see from the photograph, it's just.
Just that corner.
Yeah, just like solid limb.
Mm-hmm.
Probably means the plan by the architect. Very little, no impact on the world that was, I think. That's very beneficial for you.
Does anyone else have any comments on this application? Patty?
Drake Smith, 96 Point Road, West Hampton Beach. I'm clearly not as prepared as all these other Pond Point speakers, and I've only been there approximately 25 years.
You're a newcomer.
Yes, a little history. 96 Point Road was a burned down house when my wife and I bought the vacant piece of property. We're just to the west of the Keto House. The Keto House that was existing was known as the Geodesic Dome House. Had that geodesic dome on it. Had some minor fire damage from the fire. Back then, Mr. Keto applied for a renovation permit to the building department, with Mr. Houlihan being the building inspector. He subsequently took the house down, left a couple of studs, and then started to build the house. And there was paperwork in the file that Mr. Houlihan was looking for a first floor elevation certificate. That somehow got lost and never got put in. The house was subsequently built 2.76 feet too high for the code on it.
How much?
That 2.76 feet, that allowed them to have a garage door and be able to have access under the house like nobody else on Pond Point has. That variance was granted, it was granted under a builder's error, comment.
I don't have a record of that variance.
That was in the file years ago.
Was it?
Yeah, it was in the file. It was here prior to here, it was when they were across the street.
Okay, it's going backwards. The only variance I saw in this was for the bill.
Okay. Subsequently going into that, at the flood certificate, the then building inspector, Mr. Houlihan, was looking for a, health department permit, which he required from us before we even started construction. The first thing he wanted, because it was being a new house, was a health department permit. That subsequently was submitted by a local architect here as a forged permit. And that permit was forged, and that was in the paperwork and in that file at that time. Where that file sits now, I have no idea. So that's a little bit of the history. And again, the house was
What year
built,
was that?
2000, 2001, give or take. And again,
Before
the
the
house, you know,
computers probably, huh? It was buried downstairs?
All got here in 2000.
yeah, he was definitely here, so it could have been 2000. And that house was built, you know, larger than 1,800 square feet. Than the variance now that's already granted for 30% habitable floor space instead of 20% is outrageous. That's over 50%. The leaking deck, I have 3 upper decks on my house next door, and we've been there 20-something years and not one of them leaks. It's obviously shoddy workmanship and hasn't been fixed correctly. That's not our problem. That's not a Pond Point problem. And lastly, you guys did it, the other people that spoke talked about all the variances in Pond Point, it's a special area, et cetera, et cetera. When we built our house, we originally came and it was a little bit bigger than 1,800 square feet. Chairman of the board, you were on that board when that took place. And Richard, as we call him, Dickie Boy Hafley, was the attorney. And he was dead set against any variances being granted. Because he said, you grant it to one person, you grant it to everybody. They handed us our application, we went back and had our house redrawn, so it was 1,800 square feet. And that's what Pond Point's all about, these people that are asking for variances for this and they've already got it. How many times are you gonna give it to them? And like the attorney said, you give it to one person, now you're gonna give it to everybody. And that was Hafley's argument.
But Patty, putting aside, you know, putting aside the history that you're talking about, really, which really doesn't concern this board, you know, it does you, obviously. Really, we're talking about a situation, you know, that the architect described, you know, where that upper deck is holding water because it's, you know, it's level and what have you. So they're trying to solve that issue by a small variance. I mean, do you object to that?
I object to any variance down there at all.
Okay.
Absolutely, it's poor construction. And I have 3 upper decks and not one of them. They need a variance because they have a leaking deck. It's completely wrong. They've already had it. They already have more square feet than they're allowed. They already have a height variance.
Patty, wouldn't them closing off that deck be beneficial for you as far as privacy of your home goes?
That deck doesn't get used.
could though.
Yeah, maybe they designed the wrong house. So then in 5 years, do they come out and say the deck on the backside, we're gonna close that in and make more living space? You grant one of these other ones a larger variance, and now they turn around and come back and say, I want the same variance you gave that person.
We're well aware, absolutely. Yeah.
And a bathroom clearly isn't a hardship.
How many bathrooms in that house already?
Just two.
2 bathrooms? So.
That's all. Thank you for your time.
That's it?
After we hear everything else that everybody said, you're the same way about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Anybody else? No? Jim, are you have? Actually, I'm curious as to what other variances are on this house. Looks like I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah, well, the only one
Down
I
into the
was able
basement.
to find with a FOIL request was,
Say again?
the only one I was able to find with the FOIL request was, the one that was submitted
Mm-hmm.
in the application, where I was unaware that these others existed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have provided them.
They might be before computers, huh?
Definitely before the current systems. Now,
Yeah.
we could take another look again. Unfortunately, 2001-ish is before a lot of our computerized things.
Yeah. Oh, we found one yesterday. I forget what that was on.
It was in paper, but not on
Right.
the computer because it was.
It's on one of our other applications, because they have a paper file.
Well,
Right.
the current owners have owned it since '02. Maybe we could just ask them to confirm that they are not aware of any other variances. That would help. At least,
I'm not aware of any. And the problem with the fact that the house is too high had nothing to do with us. It was an error on between the architect, which subsequently had problems, and even the septic was not that was done by the architect and the inspectors or whatever at the time, so, don't blame me for somebody else's error.
that's why I asked the question. It's good to get that in the record that,
And I had, like I said, we've tried yearly, you can even ask Michael Stacknick, who's come into our house yearly. We've tried to fix that error, we've had people in, this just seems to be the logical way to just close it in and I won't have the problem anymore.
Okay. I'm gonna hold it over because I want to do a little bit more research on this. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion, we hold this over.
Second.
Second by Jim, we're all okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay. All right, our next one that we're going to get into now is going to be number 8 on our agenda, Glenn and Robert Heidi Zuckerman, 3 Waters Edge Court. Applicant seeks variances for 19735A to legalize an accessory sport court located in the side yard where specifically prohibited and for 19735C for an accessory sport court setback of 4 feet, where the minimum required is 20 feet.
For the applicant, move 323
Excuse me, can you say your name again, sir?
on Smith.
Thank you, Jim. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries at all. So we're talking about the property described in the R1 zone, 45,000 square feet, improved currently with a 2-story house, a deck, all of which are covered by an existing CO. The site also includes what I would describe as an expanded driveway with a basketball playing surface applied to it and a basketball hoop adjacent to it. If you take a look at the photographs that I took of the I think you'll see, or maybe you already have them, but it's just that the driveway leads to the garage. There's an expanded parking area, ground area. Listen to the garage, it functions with the garage. that probably with a playing surface and then they put up a basketball hoop next to it. I suggest that technically it's, falls into the definition of a sports court, but you know, I think when you think of sports courts, you think of, dedicated playing surfaces with fences and that kind of thing. That's not what this is. This is more, I think, more akin to, well, what happened when I was a kid, my dad put a hoop up on the front of the garage and we played basketball in the driveway. It might have been even more fun if we had the lines going as well. In my mind, it's really, not much, not much more than that. And, it's, you know, yes, it's located in the side yard. If it were just the paved area for the driveway, I think there would be any issue, at all with that. But again, you know, I guess, well, I don't guess, I know that the regulations about these things have to do with impacts. And these kind of, to the extent that it is a sports court, these kind of activities you want in the backyard, which generally would line up with the backyard of the property behind, thereby perhaps limiting the impact. In a typical situation, if you put something in the side yard, it would be next to somebody else's side yard. In this particular instance, that's not the case. This sports court is on the house, the house adjacent to this property is the rear yard, and there's a pool located in that rear yard. So, to the extent that it's a sports court at all, it's the most low impact court that you could find. These kind of things are not unprecedented. Um, in the area, and in fact, in the general vicinity of this property, there are property in Stevens Lane that has a very similar arrangement leading up to the garage, and another one located on 7 Bayfield with the driveway with stripes on it and with the basketball hoop. And you can see it in that, they're within several blocks of the existing. Balancing the negative and the positive, very little impact. The negative is the whole, just a sort of secondary use to the driveway use.
I mean, it is still the driveway.
Yes.
I mean, you know, you pull into the garage there, back out, you go, you know,
Exactly.
so they painted there,
Painted it and they put up.
painted up and put up a basketball. And
Now,
it goes
these are-
back up to somebody's backyard with the swimming pool is right there too.
Yes.
Yeah, I see it.
Jim, these are permitted, 7 Bayfield?
Just came into possession of those addresses today, so I didn't have a chance to do that.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if these are permitted, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
You missed number 6.
Pardon?
You missed number 6, Waters Edge.
Yeah.
They have another one there too,
Yeah, I have a whole list of courts, and this is.
right?
Representative of
Yeah.
everything that we're doing.
How did this come to be?
Notice a violation was issued. I'm not sure if this will came to be.
How'd that come to be?
It was, and we addressed it, so.
That complaint generated? Do we know?
We usually are.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with code enforcement.
Right.
and goes-
Somebody complained to code, but we don't have any letters of opposition. We don't. Aha.
The only thing we did hear from the neighbor across the street, and they were favorable.
Mm-hmm.
How this, we don't have any knowledge as to how the violation came to be.
Okay.
We filed the application in response to the violations.
Ah.
This is a strange application, I mean, this could go either way, if this were a basketball court, in a driveway, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
When you identify it as a sports court, and then in addition to that, You say that the neighbor to the to the
South.
north,
On the north, right?
yeah, faces into the backyard, but I mean, that is their backyard where they entertain with a swimming pool and a hot tub and.
That's
Yeah, what happened?
normally, with a full-blown sports court, that's why you put it in the backyard, so it's backyard to backyard. And my argument is that we're really in the backyard.
Well, within
It's
four,
property,
well,
within
within
4 feet.
4 feet, I mean, that's, yeah, that's the other thing.
And
yeah.
there is some landscaping in place, as you can see from the photograph, and if it would be more palatable for the board. Screen it even better.
You know, and a lot of,
to a greater extent.
a lot of times I think, the code is talking about the activity.
Mhm.
It's not just, uh, not just a sports court, it's the activity that there comes along with it. And I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just putting things out there.
They apologize to, this circumstance is very much like we're just going in for the
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
This is, 'cause this basketball feature really secondary to the primary use of the paved area, which is the driveway.
Now you're open to doing some screening, you said.
Yes.
What about lighting? You said lit?
No lighting.
There's no lights on
lighting.
this, right? I don't see any lights on the picture. I don't remember any
Yeah.
lights there. So it's not something at 11 o'clock at night, you got,
And in fact,
8 guys out there playing basketball.
if you were inclined to grant this and make that as a condition,
When was this built?
it was probably built within the last year or so.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Hi, Glenn Zucker, I'm the property owner of my wife. It was built with there was a septic problem.
Well, just, when was it built?
I'm sorry, it was 2022.
What occurred was there was some other issues that resulted in my client having to put in a new septic system. As part of the installation of the new septic system, everything was dug up, and they took that opportunity to when they put the driveway back, driveway didn't get any closer to the property line. They didn't expand it at that point. Then subsequent said it has to be able to play basketball. So that's how this improvement came in.
Okay. I think we have somebody here, right? How about if you folks come on up and what you have to say? You represent him? Hey, go ahead there, Mr. Cohen.
Seventeen Goodney Lane, the neighbors next door to the applicant.
Which way are we going in? North?
I'm 33 Stevens. So my house is the backyard.
Your house, the backyard with the swimming pool with, okay, thank you.
At one time, there was a driveway there, and it was soft surface.
Mhm.
They put without a permit, they paved over. One of the reasons Mr. Yule has in his application is that for safety purposes, so they wouldn't have to back out to the street. But there's 40 feet of space there. If you can't back the car into 40 feet of space into a three-point turn and come out to the street, I don't think you should have a license. I think he used this as a subterfuge to he paved it over because he wanted to put a sport court in. He has this beautiful big backyard that could hold a tennis court. And I think ultimately they may want to do that. I don't know. But there was no reason to put the basketball court in the side yard. They have paved over it. They painted lines. So it's a full-fledged half-court basketball court. And on top of that, they have sport, pickleball.
They have what?
Portable pickleball setup that they set up on this surface, and they play there during the summer. And that makes a lot of noise. And if you've ever heard a basketball bounce on concrete, it makes a lot of noise. The house backs onto my client's house, rear yard, is where they go for their quiet time, which is right on the other side of that landscaping that reportedly will increase. Um, it creates a lot of noise. It's annoying, especially with the pickleball. As you've seen, there's been a ton of lawsuits over pickleball courts and the noise they create. Very bothersome. And one of the things I don't understand is that we have zoning in the village that says you'd have a 20-foot side yard setback. Mr. Young claims this is not a substantial request. Well, 80% to me, like, I don't care whose math he used, is fairly substantial. It's almost total. So it is a substantial request. Also, on the application he submitted, number 20, he put down there'd be no increase in noise, which is not true. You have a basketball court, pickleball court, there's gonna be plenty of noise. How do you know what you use it? As far as number 2 goes, it was built without a permit, the driveway. He did not get a permit to not extend the driveway, but to make it a hard surface. There can be runoff problems there, we don't know. They claim there's not, but we don't know for a fact. He didn't do his due diligence on that. And he could have put all of these accessory structures, the pickleball court, the basketball court, in the rear yard. As I said, the rear yard is substantial. Why he didn't put it back there originally, I don't know. The physical impact says there's no physical impact. Well, there is a tremendous amount of physical impact. Noise is noise. And once you have it, you can't get rid of it. They had, if he had applied for the permit, like he should have, but he figured, I'll just go ahead and do it in violation of the village code and take his chances and see if he gets caught. Well, he got caught. So I don't think he should be rewarded for trying to evade the village code. Also, on the property, they have sheds in the side yard, which are not permitted, as not allowed to be in the side yard. The main thing is, not only is he looking for an 80% substantial relief, but he's looking also to put a court in an area where if every other house in the neighborhood put a court in the side yard, you're opening up Pandora's box. You grant it to him, you're gonna have to grant it to everybody. These kids that the Young talks about, they're just basically a roof over garage, which nobody gets upset about. If you have a paved driveway, well and good. But you can't bounce a basketball really on a soft surface. You need a hard surface. And that's why he made that surface hard without a permit, so he could change it into a sports area. So basically, there's two things. The village code says nothing in the side yard, that's an accessory structure, which this is, and it comes down to the 20-foot rule. They're 4 feet away. So if you go into like the client's backyard, they're right there. And you're gonna hear noise. And to say there's not gonna be any impact on their ability to enjoy their backyard is wrong. So I respectfully ask that the board deny this application. I think my client would also like to say something. Thank you.
Kevin Harrington, my wife Michelle Peach Harrington is with me. We've been residents of West Hampton Beach since 1987, and we're there when the prior owners owned the property. I can vouch for the fact that the driveway, we were friendly with the owners of the property. I can vouch for the fact that the property had a gravel driveway throughout its existence until a couple of years ago, when a portion of the property was paved and a hoop was put in that had never been there before. It's not up against the house. It's at the opposite end of the area. So it's
Right up.
5 feet, perhaps 5 feet from the property line. And so that space is now able to be dedicated to pick up basketball games. I have nothing against my neighbors personally and their family and their friends, but they're the crowd that gathers to play basketball. And much more importantly, and I'm disappointed that it didn't come up during the presentation, this is a pickleball court. And this is not a simple matter of grandfathering somebody in who made a mistake and didn't know the law as it applied to making applications for variances and permits. You heard no mention by Mr. Holm of pickleball. That's what is played 80 to 90% of the time. And that's what is the source of our objection, even more than the basketball court. Because of the unique nature of pickleball and the physics and the aspects of it, it's become a national movement to deal with noise in pickleball courts. Usually the pickleball courts may be 100 feet or 200 or 300 feet away from the complaining person who has to deal with the after effects of the noise. And in our case, we're 4 feet. 4 feet. Now, zoning regulation for West Hampton Beach, I'm sure it was thought through and had the benefit of all the experience that people involved had, and they elected to say that nothing is supposed to go in the side yard. Prohibited, no accessory structure in the side yard. And then setback requirements are supposed to be set back 20 feet. And these are both being minimized and trivialized to say that these are not important, or at least that's the implication. Because I believe, as Mr. Musnicki said, this could open the door, or one of you said, this could open the door for anybody who wants to apply to put a pickleball court in their side yard. I mean, I can tell you, having read up on this, and I'm going to ask you to give me a little indulgence for perhaps 1 to 2 minutes to read a couple of the articles that have discussed this growing problem of noise with pickleball courts. Here's an article from the New York Times.
Yeah, Mr. Harrington, we are aware
Okay,
about the
I'm sure-
pickleball,
I'm sure
the
you are.
noise, and some of the
I'm
litigation
only
that's
here
going on.
tonight, so I didn't hear the other.
But no, we didn't have it, in the past here so much in our village, but we're well aware of
Right.
what's happening with pickleball and the noise and how that interferes with people's
Okay.
enjoyment. So I'm not trying to cut you off, but I just want, this is not something new
It's
for
not
us.
new. All right. One thing in the New York Times article, is a question. So what makes the sound of pickleball specifically so hard to tolerate? And they go to an engineer named Bob Unitic, who's a retired engineer who has developed a specialty in advising communities how to deal with pickleball noise because it's such a problem. He says, but decibel readings alone are insufficient for conveying the true magnitude of any annoyance. 2 factors, the high pitch of a hard paddle slamming a plastic ball and the erratic, often frantic rhythm of the smacks also contribute to its uncanny ability to drive bystanders crazy. It creates vibrations in a range that can be extremely annoying to humans, Unitek said. So that's what we're living with. And I know that ultimately it was going to come out that this is really about pickleball, which it largely is. But I'm not against the sport. I believe if you put the pickleball court in the backyard, it would be much more mitigated if that would be allowed. I certainly don't want the pickleball court to remain 4 feet from our property, and I think frankly, we're entitled to that protection under the law. And that a variance which was presented in a way that you never would have known what you were really approving, that's what's being done, would be to ask us to permanently live with the sounds of pickleball 4 feet away from our house. And we've lived there peacefully, never had any other application, and never had a problem with any neighbors. I don't consider it a problem with the Zuckermans. I don't know the Zuckermans, but I do actually know them because they were at our house one summer years ago. But I don't know them personally. But I think that the protection of the law that is built into the law as it sits really should not be taken away in this instance. And if somebody needs a sports court, generous sized backyard, it's not adjacent, immediately adjacent to our backyard pool. And if there is a place for pickleball in the scheme of things, I don't think it should be where it is now. And the rationale at the end of the Zuckerberg application is, well, you should grant the application, it's not a viable alternative because they already put where it is now. That is an argument, that is a dangerous argument presented to a board such as yourselves. It essentially opens the door to anybody that wants to ignore the law, then they come hand in hand and say, sorry, I violated your zoning regulations, sorry, I got caught. Please grandfather me in and allow me to have what I want. And I don't think that's any way to adjudicate a situation like this.
All righty. So thank you.
One word for me. Just, I guess the final point I wanted to end with is one of the criteria that you have to use in deciding this, which is what's the character of the neighborhood. And I don't believe that pickleball courts are found in side yards in West Hampton Beach. We get out and around in town, ride bikes, walks, drives. I don't remember seeing side yards with pickleball courts. I think the character of the neighborhood would dramatically change if we open the door in this particular application to allowing a variance to strip away the protection of specific prohibition against side yard encroachment and to cut back or eliminate the 20-foot or so. And that would change the character of West Hampton Beach in a very negative way. And I'd appreciate it if you decide not to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle.
I'm Michelle Beach, Harrington. I'm the owner of the house. I bought the house 38 years ago and I love it. Joe helped me with the house for many, many, many years. The reason I'm so upset about this is because when this first all came about, I went to the village and I told the village what was happening, that there was a basketball court right up against my backyard. The Zuckermans did not put any landscaping in. I put the landscaping in. I spent another $3,000 or $4,000 to put in extra trees to screen it. I will show you. I have asked, and I did go to Brad. And Brad knows me because I went and I had to request, I wanted to increase my bike shed by 17 feet. And I went and I got a permit, correct? My funny drawings. And he was like, what, but I did it. And what bothers me here is someone, I caught them. And Mr. Zuckerman is a big lawyer. He knows better. He knows better that when you're going for something like this, you go and you get a permit. And he avoided it. So I took it to the village. The village then put in a request for them to correct the action. 2 years have gone by and there's no corrective action. The other thing is they put garbage sheds right up on my property line. And I'll show you, I went by today to show you all the garbage that's still there. And we've requested that these accessory structures be moved. And for 2 years, for 15 months that I've asked this, that the village asked them and put the order forward. They have not done that. I'm a good neighbor.
1 second. Hey, Brad, are there open violations for these things that, she's talking about? Not the court, because that's why we're here, but I'm talking,
I don't believe so.
okay.
I did request the garbage to be moved, the shed to be moved. I'll show you the picture.
Is this the one you're referring to?
Yes, and there's
It's
all,
already in the record.
there's all garbage mixed in behind it. I have put in a lot of landscaping. I had to, because I had to increase it. So my point is, this is a case of someone got caught and now is asking for permission. And that's not the way this village should be run.
Well, we go strictly by our 5 factors when we determine a variance, so we don't appreciate someone coming and asking for forgiveness afterwards, but we still look at it through our 5 factors. And that's where this will be going.
And the factors?
It's on the zoning board application. The first one is, will it create an undesirable change?
And it does to
Oh,
me.
well, I'm just gonna go through this. We're not, does the applicant have a clear alternative?
He
That would
does.
still, and is it substantial? Oh, let me, is there an environmental impact? Yeah, well, I got that. You asked what the 5 factors were. I'm going through them for you. Number 4, is there an environmental impact? And the 5th one, of course, is it self-created? So those are the factors that the zoning board will take into effect when we look at any application. Not just, well, the hardship is,
My hardship.
yeah, the hardship isn't one of our 5 factors, though. Okay, so we appreciate very much your input. We've listened to it. We have made note of it. We respect it. And
Thank you for that.
now we're going to move on. Unless you have
Thank you,
something
Joe.
else to add, of course.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So, Jim, do you have anything else that you want to add here, or your clients want to add, or?
So this is, application is response to a notice of violation.
Mm-hmm.
The notice of violation was related to the basketball hoop and the basketball lines on the driveway. There's no request in this application to permit pickleball at
They
this
play it
location.
all the time.
There is no request in this application to legalize pickleball use at this location. And there are no pickleball lines on the surface of the driveway.
Okay.
There are lines to play basketball. And this is, as I said, the driveway is a driveway and it's
Right.
used as such. And
Uh-huh.
this is kind of an add-on feature. This is the basketball hoop on the garage is all this is. And that's all the relief that we're looking to have. And as I indicated, if the board is inclined to grant this, we would certainly be amenable to some mitigation along the common border.
Jim, you're saying it's a basketball court, but really it's a sports court. And possibly, possibly your client, wasn't, truthful with you or exactly what that sports court is being used for. I assume that you don't know that it's being used for other things than basketball.
Okay, my point is that the only relief that we're looking for is for the basketball, which would mean that if it is being used in another fashion.
Hold on.
No.
The zoning officer has a role in this. I've deemed it a sports court. It's a sports court. Our village does not get into pickleball, whether people like it or don't like it. And this is something that we've worked through for the years because people don't tend to put in tennis courts that often. Now they're coming these smaller sport courts. So they are defined as accessory structures in our code. This is being called a sports court. That's the relief you're seeking because I said that's the relief you're seeking. You're all welcome to parse the technicalities, but this is not legalization of an expanded driveway. This is a sport court.
But in a sports court, you don't distinguish between basketball or pickleball, do you? So if they were approved for a sports court, they would also be approved for playing anything on that sports court.
Well,
unless you
I-
build the condition.
Because I can't have a tennis court that gets restriped as a pickleball court and respond to that as being
I'm
a
sure
change
it's
of
a-
use, right?
So try to help
Or if someone
everybody
puts a,
understand that.
someone puts a basketball hoop at the end of their,
Whatever sports they play on this area, it's still a
But
sports
I
court.
will add that it is not seeking relief for it because we'll see where this goes, but in a floodplain, which this one is, I don't permit sport courts to be of solid surface. They're clay or they're permeable surfaces. So that's another component that's not in front of the board, but this is a sport court. It's not an expanded driveway. If someone just has a driveway and puts a hoop up at the end of the driveway, they wouldn't be here before this board.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, I think this,
That
I
being,
think,
that being the case, though, I think that this board would be well within their abilities to limit it to what could be actually played.
I don't think we're gonna be doing that, or at least not in my chair. You know, I think that this is moved beyond, a driveway, which is benign.
Mhm.
As far as, as far as the use.
Right.
To a sports court, which originally was basketball and a hoop at the end of a driveway. Now we're talking about, pickleball.
But I'm not talking about pickleball.
I understand,
I'm
but
suggesting to you that you have the ability to limit this decision to
It's,
prohibit that.
I don't think that may not happen. I mean, it's a sports court at this
I
this
understand.
juncture.
Yeah.
And a sports court, too close, in a side yard where it doesn't belong, too close. You have an availability to put this in the rear yard.
Mhm.
So, why not put this in the rear yard?
It's there now.
That's,
It's a driveway with a hoop, and that's all we're looking for. And we're more than happy to allow this board to limit this space to that use, which would therefore minimize the impacts of this use. And if it specifically, I don't think you want to preclude anything. I think what you want to indicate, what you could indicate is that this can be used as the basketball court, period. And that no other sports court use would be permitted on these
Okay.
premises.
Who's supposed to enforce that though? Brad has
They've,
to,
they've enforced it already.
Land management is not, we don't curb activity or what people do. It's about structures, location of structures.
Yeah.
Yes, there's uses tied to structures. We can't parse the use. A sports court is a play surface, it's defined in our code. I don't get into what you're playing on it, but that's as far as I can go with that.
Jim, I think your client wants to say something.
I'd say one point.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, hi.
Well,
Over here, up there. Sure. Hi, thank you so much. I'm Glenn Zuckerman, Viewers, that's my wife. Two quick points. Brad, we haven't met, just made a comment that is interesting to me because the entire argument against this application is that, oh, you can just put it in the backyard, no problem. But Brad just made a comment that said we can't. So I'd like to know which one is it, because he said he would not approve a hard surface basketball that obviously can't be played on grass or on clay. So which one is it? Can we put it in the backyard or can we not put it in the backyard?
They have permeable surfaces for playing basketball. There's surfaces that are hardened with holes in it that you put it on over drainage rock. People specifically install in this village in floodplains, which we could have gone over.
Well, no one, that's the second point, is that no one has ever called us, our neighbors, we've met, but we haven't really met since we bought this house. We used to rent their house at one point, their house is for rent constantly, which is great, and we loved your house. But we never, not one complaint was ever made to us, not one phone call, not one letter. Pickleball, there are no lines, there are no pickleball lines. My kids were playing pickleball last summer, I'm not gonna lie. They were playing pickleball as a makeshift, there wasn't permanent lines there, there's not a net mounted into the ground. If they had an issue with noise at any point, all they have to do is knock or call, not one time. I don't know if you're there or not there, I don't know if
I
your
am
neighbors
there.
complained
I
or-
am,
or
Brett.
not complained,
Fine.
but no one ever said a word to us.
okay.
With regards to garbage, the first time I'm hearing about the garbage, not one complaint, not one violation, not one nothing. There was a shed we put in last summer. Second, we were told that's not allowed. It was moved to the back.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Okay, hold on. We're not gonna, I don't want to hear any debate going
Stop.
back.
Okay, so
Please, thank you.
the issue at hand here tonight, honestly, is I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a good member of this community. We're new here. Our kids love coming out to our house. They love to play basketball. Tell me where I can put a basketball court. Tell me. I'd love to know because
That's something you could talk about with the building inspector and,
as far as I'm concerned, the location of this, where it is right now, the driveway was not moved 1 inch closer to the property line. It was paved as part of a permit for a septic system that was done through the town of Southampton, wherever we were told to do it. It cost us a fortune of money to put in this crazy septic system. They dug up the entire area and they paved over it. I'm not trying to steal anything, cheat anything. I really am offended by that accusation. That's not what was happening.
The driveway was expanded though.
It was not expanded towards the sideline at all.
It was expanded.
To the other side, it was cornered off. Fred, we haven't spoken, so all you have to do is just call.
Got a violation from my office 18 months ago.
That's why we're
So
here.
when you say no one talked to us, yes, we did.
I'm saying you and I have not, this is the first time I'm talking, so I don't know. The fact of the matter is, sir, to the committee, we want to be, good neighbors. It's not a pickleball court, it's a basketball court. There are 25 plus basketball courts in this neighborhood. I can show you pictures of them. I have them here. We can submit them to you all over the neighborhood with lines. You can see from the satellite. It's everywhere. I don't want to rat out my neighbors.
are
But
they
if
in
it's
side
everywhere,
yards? I mean,
why
this
can't
is
it be on
real,
mine?
this is all about being in the side yard.
There are plenty of them in the side yard. Plenty of them. I can show you pictures of them right now if you'd like to see them.
The two that we submitted there.
There's 4
In
on
the
my
side yard,
street. They're on Dune Road. They're everywhere. There are pickleball courts in front yards of Dune Road that were
Okay,
approved
well,
by this committee.
I'm not gonna dispute that a bit because I don't know. But that's not what's before our board tonight. What's
Correct.
before the zoning board is this application and how it affects things. You heard me go through our 5-way test. Mr. Hume knows it well.
I
So
appreciate
this is
everyone's
not a
consideration
personal
here.
thing, but
We did put in green giant trees right there behind on the dirt, right adjacent to the driveway to mitigate whatever noise or views or whatever it is. I don't know what you put on your property. I'm sure it's beautiful. I don't look that closely at what they did, but we did put that in there. And if there's more that's needed, as Mr. Hume said, we'll be happy to put that.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Just in summary, we're just looking for the relief to play basketball driveway. It may be a matter of enforcement going forward, but the village enforces all kinds of things all the time. Not all the time, but they get involved in that kind of thing. And as we know, neighbors are always on the lookout. So that if this board were inclined to grant the use for basketball and some other sport was being played on that the building department would hear about it. Appropriate violation would be issued.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
I have one last comment. I don't think that I should be forced when I come out. I work full-time, work many hours, run the 6 a.m. train, 40-something years. I don't think that when I come out and his kids are playing pickleball and it's really loud and it's 4 or 5 feet from me, that I should have to go and call the West Hampton Beach Police to say,
How,
please turn
how
the-
far really is it?
It's really my backyard's right there.
Well,
My
I saw that
fence-
your pool is there, and then you'd be on the other side of your swimming pool.
Like, sit right there, and the hot tub's there, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's right, it's
And
close.
and the trees that were put in, were not put in between my property and theirs. It was put to their backyard,
Where's the hot tub?
about the end of their driveway.
Can't tell.
Maybe up here. Oh, I understand.
So I don't wanna have to, every time their kids are violating this, I have to like call to get it enforced.
Well, no, we don't want that either. We don't want that either. So. Okay. Thank you.
Just one more comment.
Mr. Cohen, of course. Huh?
I'll let you get out of here.
Well, we got 2 more after you, my friend, so.
The 80%, it's very substantial. And that's one of the criteria for this. And one of the other criteria is the fact that there's an alternative. And it definitely is in the backyard. Thank you. And I think he put the basketball court in the side yard because he wanted to be close to the house and to the children, rather than have them walk into the backyard. It just, he doesn't meet the criteria of all 5 of them. So I asked the board not to, not really take those into consideration.
We certainly will.
The
We,
increase in
we
noise.
take this very seriously and we will take it
and
into
the 80%
consideration.
rule. Thank you.
You've been here before, you know how we work. Do we have anybody else? We all set with this one?
Nothing more.
Any more? Gentlemen, what was it? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we go ahead and, close this hearing for decision. Second by Danny, all in favor? Aye. Jim, what, you got like a half a day here? What, are you going home already? All right, number 9, Paul and Sylvia Avasano, 191 Dean Road. Applicant seeks variance from 197-21, 29, 1A for proposed roof over extension with increased floor area within a required side yard, 16.6 feet proposed when 20.7 is required, represent a prohibited increase in degree of nonconformity of a dwelling with pre-existing non-conforming substandard side yard.
Bill Barber, Barber Architectural. 124 Jeff Avenue, North York.
Sorry,
Oh,
the noise will just,
Yeah.
it'll be recorded.
They purchased this home back in May. One notable feature about the home is they like when the contract was that there was no roof towards the house. This we're looking to do is just create a small foyer. Air mitigations to the interior bathroom, laundry room. But overall, we're looking to keep the same aesthetic of the house and update all the finishes into the exterior as well. And just kind of clean it up from what it was, which has been a little bit another dismay for the last decade or so. The house is in the R3 zone on the south side of Unionville. It is forming in both block width area respectively to the area of the field. Probably about 20 to 25% of the making it. Our relief tonight regarding the west side property, with the roof over porch, is extending the nature of the home. The home's location hasn't changed, our set are not in the same location. Currently, that side yard is at 20.7 feet, and we are looking at the proposed outdoor area is conforming. It's just a matter of a cantilever covered walkway on the west side, while it's extending from the back of the line, is that location. I would also point out that the neighbors are west, one they did a similar condition. And was here for
Yeah, they got the construction going on right now, right?
they did.
That house, yeah.
Oh, great. Very happy.
Go over the side yards again for me, would you, please?
Right, so the front yard and rear yard are both conforming.
Mm-hmm.
The side yard where we're required to have a minimum of 20 and a combined side yard of 50. The house currently sits at 12.7 and 20.7.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's specifically in nature to the fact that the lot is only 75.12 feet wide instead of 100 feet. So we are, the proposed addition is only to extend the same lines further to the north. So where we're existing 20.7 feet, we're looking to maintain 20.7, but just extend it out further.
And just go closer to Dune Road.
Right, and only about 12 feet. We're not getting much closer. Currently from the street to the driveway is 96 feet. Out of the garage. So at least actually get back further than that, I would say plus or minus 120.
You guys have any questions? No. Joe? No. Pretty straightforward, huh? I'm quiet. I'm just quiet.
I wanted to make it easy on you tonight.
Brad, you have anything on this application?
No, the addition doesn't need relief. It's just extending that.
Right.
There's a walk down the side that has
Yeah.
roof over. It's extending that with the new addition, but that walk is within, that roof over is within the 20 that we normally require. It's the 16.6. I asked Bill to jog it in, but I guess for architectural reasons, it's getting late and we don't want to hear him. He tried to look at it, but this, tried to go with it.
Step it in a little bit, yeah.
Tried to go, wants to keep the integrity of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. I don't have anything else. Tony, you got anything on this one? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I assume nobody else has anything they want to add. Okay. Great. All right, so I'll make a motion. We go ahead and close this hearing for decision.
Second.
Second by Jim, all in favor? All right, our last one, David and Amy Perlin, 23 Church Lane. Applicant seeks variances from 197 to 1A for proposed easterly second-story addition that increases the floor area within a required side yard, 7.6 proposed, 30 feet required, increasing a prohibited increase in degree of nonconformity of a excuse me, with a pre-existing non-conforming substandard side yard, and also from 197/29 1A for proposed westerly second-story addition that increases the floor area within a required side yard, representing a prohibited increase in degree of nonconformity of a dwelling with a pre-existing non-conforming substandard. Now, you know your application was incomplete.
No, it does.
You know, when you checked on it here, were the previous variance ever given on this property? You did the application? Has a previous variance, special or interpretation ever been applied for on this property? It's yes. And it says if yes, give the date and attach it. Yes, it was. You know what it was? I just happen to have. Hmm? So this was for a one-story addition, stone patio and stone landing with a roof over the stone landing, which is located 19.8 feet from the westerly side yard, which is what's there now, right? 19.8 feet from the westerly side yard. This was 2005. You want to see it?
No.
Huh? Okay. So. Go ahead. Now you can go.
Leaving my glasses.
Mhm. So.
Okay, this property is located in the R1 zoning district. The property has 13,597.2 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required. The property has 90 feet of road frontage on Church Street, but 150 feet is required. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, bless you.
It's okay.
Property contains an existing two-story, three-bedroom home with full basement. The home contains one bedroom on the first floor, two bedrooms on the second floor. The home is set back 28.9 feet from the street, 19.8 feet to the west, and 5.6 feet on the east, and about 51 feet in the rear. Existing home has a storm drain on the lot coverage of 20%. We are proposing to construct additions to the second floor within the first floor footprint. The existing bedroom to the rear of the residence will be enlarged by extending the rear gable wall out over the kitchen about 4.5 feet. The second floor addition also will be expanded to the east over the existing living room and garage. The addition to the east will contain 2 bedrooms and a bath. The east extension will set back 63 feet from the street, 7.6 feet from the east side yard, an additional 2 more feet than the existing garage. First floor. Proposed second floor addition will not increase setbacks or lot coverage. I don't believe the mass of the existing home addition will greatly increase the visual impact to the street or to the neighbor.
So you're stepping it back, huh? You're stepping back.
On the east side.
On the
we're
side, you gotta
stepping the
step that
second
back.
story 2 feet. Yes.
Uh-huh. How about that? How many times have we listened to applicants tell us that can't be done, right?
I have other drawings if you need those.
You guys have any questions for Sal?
Great design.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. Joe, you have any questions?
I don't know.
No? Dan?
Sure.
Brad, you have any comment on this?
Well, with respect to the step back, that's what's currently on the survey you submitted?
Yes.
It's not been new to me. Okay, I just
Right.
wanted to clarify.
And we have 2 letters from the 2 adjacent neighbors in the file.
Mm-hmm.
Those to you.
They're what?
I do not oppose.
You don't know? I didn't think so. Okay. I didn't have anything else for Sal. Your client sat through the show tonight. Thank you very much. I'm sorry we didn't have any refreshment. Anything, gentlemen? Okay. Then I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and close the hearing for a decision.
Second.
Second by Joe, all in favor? Good. All righty. Thank you, folks. Have a great night.
Thank you.
I think Carrie went downstairs to the basement to dig out that variance. I wanted to see what it was. So, thank you. All righty. You guys have a good night. I'll make a motion. We go ahead and close tonight's hearing. Second by John, all in favor?
Aye.
All good. All right.